If you heard these phrases before, you were likely raised by a woman who wasn't ready to be a mother. Certain phrases from childhood stick for a reason, and sometimes they reveal more about the person raising you than you realized. She fed you, she clothed you, but still, something never felt right. You felt unseen, you felt unheard, or like you were always working on eggshells. Or for some reason, you knew you couldn't be your real or full self in your own house. She was there, but she wasn't really there. We are not shaming or blaming our mothers. However, in this video, we are going to gently unmask what it feels like to be raised by a mother who might have loved you but wasn't emotionally ready for motherhood. This is not to make excuses, but for you to understand why some of the things she said still echoes in your mind today. Why certain wounds still show up in your relationship, and by the end of this video, you'll feel a little less guilty for the feelings you've buried for so long. So breathe. Let's unmask slowly. Welcome to Unmasking You, where we uncover the quiet wounds that shaped us, so we can finally begin to heal with honesty. Not every woman who becomes a mother is ready for the job. And that's not always about age, money, or even love. It's about emotional readiness. It's about having the capacity to show up with patience, presence, and self-awareness. In Nigeria, Africa, many women become mothers too early or out of pressure, shame, religion, duty, or survival. Nobody ever asked, "Are you healed? Are you ready?" They only asked, "When will you marry?" or "When you go born?" But motherhood without healing, that becomes a circle of trauma. Many of us grew up internalizing pain that we often can't explain. We felt unsafe, unwanted, or just confusingly alone, even if our mother was physically there. Often, the biggest clues comes from the language that was used, the things said in passing, the phrases repeated in moments of stress, anger, or even deliberately. If you heard the following as a child, you may have been raised by someone who wasn't ready. Even if she meant well, she wasn't emotionally ready to parent you in the way you deserved. Number 1, you ruined my life. Few sentences cut deeper. If you heard this or its cousin, "If it weren't for you, I'll be living my dreams. I'll be doing this or that." You likely grew up carrying guilt that was never yours to begin with. A mother who says this is projecting resentment onto a child who simply existed. It's not honesty, it's emotional immaturity trying to find a scapegoat. And the long-term effect is heavy. You started to believe that your existence is a burden. Number 2, if you cry again, I will give you something to cry about. Or, if I hear fame, you go hear am. This phrase wasn't discipline. It was emotional invalidation. Because children cry when overwhelmed. Children cry when they are hurt. Children cry when they miss you, when they need your attention, and when they want to connect. And that is not only normal, but that is totally okay. If you want the cute chubby baby, you have to be prepared for the sleepless nights, loud cries, and the smelly diapers. You can't have one without the other. Children cry because they need help regulating. A mother who's emotionally unprepared for motherhood often interprets crying as disobedience rather than a request for care. If this was a common phrase in your home, chances are your emotional life was shaped around suppression, not expression. So you learned to bottle pain and fear expression. Number 3, you're so sensitive, or you're so soft or dramatic, or your sharp mouth is always trouble, or your own too much. Translation: your feelings makes me uncomfortable. Emotionally available mothers try to understand what their child is feeling. Unready mothers tend to dismiss, minimize, or mock. If you were told you were overreacting every time you felt big emotions, you probably learned early to shrink your inner world just to be accepted. That doesn't go away, it just goes quiet. Number 4, because I said so, aka as long as you dey my house, now wetin I talk you go do, aka you don't know more than me. Who asked you for your opinion? Almost all parents must have said this phrase in different variation at some point. However, if this was the only explanation you ever got, it likely signals more than you realize. It signals avoidance. Readiness for parenthood includes being able to explain why some things matters, why some things should not be done, why some things are the way they are or should be, even when it's hard. A woman who wasn't ready might use authority as a shortcut to connection. But children don't learn trust through control. They learn it through consistency and communication. Number 5, you always ruin everything, aka na so wahala you sabi bring. Everything your hand touch, you destroy. This isn't feedback. It's a wound disguised as a sentence. Parents are supposed to correct behavior, not attack identity. But if your mother often made you feel like you were the problem, instead of naming a specific issue, she may not have had the tools to separate our emotional reactions from your developmental needs. Number 6, you are just like your father. This line cuts differently depending on who says it and how. But when it comes from a mother, especially one who feels burdened by regret, resentment, or unresolved pain, it often lands on a child like a curse, a prophecy, an identity. Sometimes she says it with bitterness, sometimes with fear, sometimes with shame, but never with love. When a mother says, "You're just like your father," and her tone carries disappointment or disgust, what she's really doing is handing her child a mirror smoked with her own trauma. She's not seeing the child, she's seeing the man who hurt her, the mistake she feels she made, the dream that never came true. And now, consciously or not, she projects that frustration onto the child. Every time they talk back, stand up for themselves, walk like him, laugh like him, or show the same stubbornness she once fell for, If the child is a boy, he grows up wondering if he's doomed to become what she fears. He might silence his anger, suppress his opinions, shrink himself so he doesn't become that man. Or, ironically, he might fulfill that prophecy because no one ever told him he was different. No one helped him to heal. He just inherited blame. If the child is a girl, she grows up internalizing that half of her blood is bad. That loving herself fully means loving the man her mother hated. She might reject the parts of herself that reminds her of him, her voice, her confidence, her sensuality, her power, or worse, she might be drawn to men just like him, as if to rewrite her mother's story or repeat it. Growing up, I heard this line too, not every day, but enough for it to echo. Enough for me to feel like I was on trial for someone else's crimes. Enough for me to want to become the opposite of him without even fully knowing who he was. But the truth is, I am not my father. I am not my mother either. I am me, and so are you. When we hear you're just like your father, we need to pause and ask, was that meant to shame or affirm? Was it love or leftover pain? Because sometimes it's not about who you are, it's about what they never healed. Number 7. I'm the parent, not your friend. AKA, I no be your mate. Na me born you, you no born me. This one is complicated because it's not always wrong. But when this is used as a reason to withhold connection, softness, or emotional intimacy, it becomes a wall. You learn that love means distance, not connection. Mothers who weren't ready to be emotionally available often use this phrase to justify emotional distance. In healthy parent-child dynamics, authority and closeness can still coexist. Number 8. I wish you were more like your siblings. See your brother. Can't you be like him? Comparison don't motivate. They diminish. A child who's told they are not enough, especially compared to a sibling, starts measuring their worth based on someone else's behavior. Mothers who are overwhelmed or emotionally reactive often reach for comparisons out of frustration. But the damage runs deep. It breeds shame, competition, and lifelong self-doubt. You learn to perform, compare, and shrink yourself. Number 9. I never even wanted children, but here you are. AKA, na your papa force me. If no be say, then force me. Or, if no be say God catch me. Whenever said in anger or indifference, this line lands like a rejection letter to your own existence. It tells the child you were a mistake, you weren't chosen, you're just something I tolerate. Even if it was meant as a joke or said in a moment of stress, the message bonds. And the wounds it creates can echo into adulthood in the form of low self-worth and fear of abandonment. Even if she cooked for you, you still felt unwanted because you had to shrink so you are not abandoned. Number 10. Why can't you just be normal? Kids don't hear this as a joke. They hear it as proof that something is wrong with them, which they can't see or recognize. That who they are isn't okay. So they become overly cautious, observant of every action, even micro behaviors in themselves and in others, to match their parents' version of normal. Emotionally mature parents don't expect children to shrink their personality to make parenting easier. But unready parents often react to anything different. Sensitivity, creativity, neurodivergence, by that I mean having a brain that works differently from the average or neurotypical person. These may be differences in social preferences, ways of thinking or communicating, and or ways of perceiving the environment. You don't label a child for their differences. In worst cases, the parent discuss or complain to external family members, spiritual leaders, or school before the child can even understand what's going on with themselves. They grow carrying the label deformed, abnormal, under the constant radar of those around them that they should have been connecting with. Some are even taken to churches for deliverance for stubbornness, deliverance for even teaching the kid how to forgive. Some of these kids, when adults, overcompensate what normal is supposed to be and sometimes become perfectionists or performative self-expression that leaves them constantly drained. All phrases mentioned weren't just words. They were seeds and they grew into your self-esteem, your relationship, your trust issues. Your mother may have loved you deeply, but love through unhealed pain can still bruise or cut deeply. She may have been overwhelmed, had no role model, been repeating what her mother did, been surviving, not nurturing, or had to do the parenting alone when no one taught her how. And before she knew it, she had more children. Sometimes what you felt wasn't lack of love. It was love filtered through fear, frustration, and fatigue. If you were raised this way, you might still struggle to express your emotions. Believe you have to earn love, hide your sensitivity, date people who treat you the same. You're not overreacting, you're not ungrateful. You are responding to emotional patterns that started before you could even speak. This is not about blame, it's about naming. We are not here to insult our mothers. We're here to understand, because naming what hurts you is not disrespect, it's clarity. Healing starts with naming what happened, not to demoralize the person, but to release the weight of what was said. You didn't ruin her life. You were never too much. Let's say it softly one more time. You were not a mistake. You did not ruin anything. You were just a child born into someone else's unhealed story. And now, you get to write a new one. Any voice that says otherwise in your head, that is not yours. You can love her, you can honor her, and still tell the truth about what you needed, but never got. Healing is being honest, and sometimes that honesty saves the next generation. If this video brought up memories for you, sit with them. You're not alone. If you know your home is too toxic and she probably hasn't healed, you can still love her and love her from a distance. Children have a beautiful feeling in the home. They are a blessing, and they come to teach us what was never taught, or to remind us of what we had forgotten. The era of going into marriages or childbirth just to tick off a to-do list is long gone. Moving forward, we should go in when we are not only physically, financially, spiritually, but also emotionally ready for the tasks and requirements and sacrifices that comes with parenthood. We should grow out of the circle that our parents raised us in. If you want to explore more about toxic family dynamics, watch our next video, They Didn't Love You, They Loved Your Silence. I promise that will hit home. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Let's grow this space. Unmasked gently, unmasked honestly. This is not weakness, this is healing.